Hey everybody, I'm Diane Gale and I am the author of the blog sustainableslowliving.com, and today I am going to share a tortillas recipe with you that you are going to make all the time. This recipe is tender, it is flavorful, and it is authentic. There is nothing like it. Once you make your own tortillas, you will never go back to store-bought again. So, let's get started. I have a bowl here, and in this bowl I have 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, and 3/4 teaspoon of baking powder that I have whisked together and created a well in the center of the flour mixture. And to that I'm going to add 2/3 cup of warm water, not hot but warm, and 1/3 cup of extra virgin olive oil. You can use other oils for this recipe. I really like the extra virgin olive oil in this recipe. I highly recommend it. Once you have your oil and your water in there, you're just going to take and you're going to mix your flour in until you have a shaggy dough. And then we're just going to flour the surface that we're working on. You don't want to put too much flour on it because you don't want all of that flour to work into your dough, because you are going to be working flour into your dough later. We're going to turn this out onto the surface, and then we're just going to knead this for 1 to 2 minutes until it's nice and smooth. Once your dough is nice and smooth, you're going to want to form it into a bit of a rectangle. You want to kind of try and keep it the same thickness all the way around when you're doing this, because this is how you're going to portion out the pieces for your tortillas. Now, this is not an exact science, and likely your pieces are not going to be perfect. You can weigh them if it is really important to you that you get them right. Usually the pieces that are here on the end are the ones that end up being a little bit smaller. If you have a dough cutter for this, that is the best way to go. I do not have a dough cutter here. It is something that I have to buy now that I'm in Pennsylvania, so I am going to go ahead and just use this knife. You want to cut this in 12 equal portions, and then you're going to take each one of your portions, lightly roll it in your hand. You're not looking to work the dough any further. You're going to toss it in a little bit of flour, and you're just going to throw it right there on your counter. Once you have your dough balls all floured and on the counter, you're just going to throw a clean towel over them and you're going to let them rest for 30 minutes. Letting your dough rest is probably the most important part of this recipe. This is when your gluten develops and makes it so that you can roll your tortillas out, and they'll take a nice form. They won't necessarily rip and tear. I mean, obviously you can roll them out too far, but it is what makes them roll out nicely. So you want to give the gluten 30 minutes to form, and you definitely never want to skip this step. Okay, so it's been a half hour and it is time to start to roll these out. You'll see that they've soaked up most of the flour. Now, when I tested these, I rolled them out as I was cooking them, and we're not going to be able to do that today because I want to cook them together with you. So I am going to flour the counter a little. There we go. I'm going to try rolling these all out and stacking them because I think that's the easier way to do it anyway, but I don't know if they're going to stick together. By the end, we will know whether or not you have to put a parchment paper between them to keep them from sticking together. You can adjust the size of the dough balls that you make, like instead of cutting 12, you can cut more if you want something really small, or you can cut less if you want something bigger. What you want to do is try and get your tortillas to stay pretty round, and that, my friend, is easier said than done. So I'm going to put that on there. Put a little flour in between. Don't put too much flour. Just a light coating to keep them from sticking to one another, because that flour will brown in the skillet, and then you'll have like black spots on your tortillas, and that's pretty unappealing. And you also want these to be thin. You want them to be really pretty thin. That one even ripped a little when I picked it up. That's how they're meant to be, right? That's when I feel like they're best, but also they're delicious even when they're not. They're a little thicker though and less like a tortilla. The first ones that I made when I did the test recipe, I didn't know better and I made them too thick. But they were delicious. I ate them like straight out of the pan. So they're still good, they're just a little bit different. If you want them to be like a tortilla shell, like a taco shell, then you want to roll them as thin as you can. Okay, you guys, so I got my pan really, really hot, and then I turned it down, but you want to keep it hot enough that your tortilla is going to start to cook as soon as it hits the surface. You'll learn with a little bit of practice how to do that. So you're going to take a little bit of oil and you're going to put it in there, and then you're going to take your tortilla and you're going to throw it in. And you want to let it cook for about 30 seconds, 40 seconds on each side. You'll be able to tell when to flip it by checking the bottom of it, and you'll be able to tell when it's cooked enough, because it will look, can I get that in there? Because it will look like this. Isn't that wonderful? All right, you guys, here we go. These are our homemade tortillas. I'm telling you, this tortillas recipe is fabulous. And they're so easy to do. I can't remember if I mentioned before that last week we did homemade taco seasoning, but we did, and I'm going to put that link down below for you so that you can take these and you can make some tacos with them if you like. There are so many more ways to use them than just tacos, so don't miss out. I will also have the link to the blog post down below. You can check that out. There's more information over there, like there always is, about how you can use them, and there's a lot of tips and tricks for this recipe, so it's actually a blog post that you might want to check out. Usually I say, you know, if you're inclined to go over there, and I mean that, but this time I'm thinking that you probably want to check out the tips and tricks for this. It will help you to make the best tortillas always. This recipe makes a dozen tortillas. You can make a batch of these and eat them all week long. If you have a bigger family, you might need to make a double batch, but you will eat them all week long. I am serious. They are so full of flavor. If you are a bread lover, you are going to pick them up and you are going to eat them just like they are. They are outstanding. So make yourself a batch. Let me know in the comments how they turn out for you. And as always, I am so glad that you joined me here today. You and I are going to get together again, and we are going to do it really soon.